I would like to take this opportunity to uh, share my sincere thanks with Symbios Consulting Egypt, and in particular, Miss Shiri Muslim. So I'm really glad to be here. I would like to uh, introduce my organization, which is Bytes Center of Excellence, and we help all types of organizations and individual professionals to achieve and sustain organizational and operational excellence through uh, a well-connected network of international experts related to business, innovation, excellence, and technology. So you may see some information related to our organization. And after this seminar, I'm sure that organizer will be able to share these slides with you. This is our vision, mission, and approach. So I will move towards my introduction. As I told you, my name is Zubair Anwar, and I'm a thought leader at Bytes Center of Excellence. Professionally, I'm an engineer, and I have done some advanced certifications in quality and Lean Six Sigma. I've been working with several international organizations, which are actually the quality leaders all over the world. One of them is American Society for Quality, and I am supporting them in various roles. So I am the chair Technical Community Council Committee on Quality 4.0. And we are providing some strategic help to ASQ and the global community on Quality 4.0 transformation. I'm also chair of Service Quality Body of Knowledge. I'm a member of ASQ Award Board, member Technical Community Council for all other divisions in ASQ, for example, software, automotive, healthcare, aviation, defense, quality management, so on and so forth. I'm working with World Conference on Quality and Improvement for the last 5-6 years as technical reviewer and moderator. I'm also a technical reviewer for a couple of other publications, and I'm associated with Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers as senior member. With Technische University of Munich, which is one of the top university in Europe, I am a guest faculty and subject matter expert on Lean Six Sigma. So that was a brief about myself. And here you can see a list of publications, some books and research papers, which I have co-authored, authored, and presented at different points of time. Now let's talk about today's webinar. So I have divided today's webinar into few sections. So first of all, I will have a quick walk through the quality evolution that has happened in the past century and which has paved the way for something that we are going to focus in today's session, which is Quality 4.0. And it has a very close relationship with Industry 4.0. So we shall talk what is Industry 4.0 and what is the emerging paradigm of Quality 4.0. I will also share some of the research that has been published about the organizational readiness around the globe. And we shall also talk about the opportunities and challenges which are associated with Quality 4.0. And of course, near the end of this webinar, we shall have time for questions and answers. So the first section is the quality evolution over the past century. Now, you might be aware that we have been having industrial revolution in the past few centuries. We had first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, and third industrial revolution. So part of second industrial revolution and third industrial revolution was the part of 20th century. And we were able to have the modern organizations, management theories, standardized work, factory education system, and things like that. And I think this is a good time to commemorate the quality gurus which have been helping all this time to share their philosophy and their research and application on the industry in order to uh, promote quality, quality management systems, and quality culture. You know, historically, there have been two centers of excellence in quality. One belongs to the United States and the other one belongs to Japan. So our snapshot starts with an American quality guru, Dr. William Edwards Deming, who went to Japan for an official assignment. And there he was involved with Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers, and he shared his philosophy, which is a set of different theories and quality systems. Japanese took him very serious, and Japanese were able to get short-term and long-term results using quality as a tool for the organizational excellence and success eventually. We may not be able to discuss in detail the teachings and the philosophies because that is not our today's scope, but it is important to at least refer to the main work from these gurus, because that is going to stay maybe over next few centuries. So Dr. Deming, he used to come back home in the United States, and in 1980s, one of his documentary went viral. Now, at that time, there was no internet, there was no electronic communication. So NBC television channel broadcasted his documentary with the title, "If Japan Can, Why Can't We as US?" And through that, American came to know that Dr. Deming was the person behind the success of Japan in quality and productivity. So they started listening to him, and his ideas were actually applied on the workplaces in America at that time. The person next to Dr. Deming in the slide, second from the left, is Philip Crosby. He is known for many of his excellent work in quality, and I shall mention cost of quality framework that he was able to apply in the Martin company, which today we call Lockheed Martin, famous for F-16, F-35, and other aircrafts. Crosby successfully applied the cost of quality framework and was able to enhance the operational efficiency of the Martin company by at least 15-20%, and that translated into many billion US dollars at that time. And we are talking about 1950s and 60s. The next person to Crosby is Dr. Juran. Dr. Juran is a guru of all times. He lived for 104 years and he traveled all over the world to promote quality. His Pareto principle on the industries, manufacturing and service workplaces is very popular, and he was a very major contributor to the quality tools that he was able to found with some of the Japanese gurus. The person in the last on the right side is Dr. Feigenbaum, who was the vice president of engineering in General Electric in 1960s, and he became very popular by promoting his ideas of total quality control. And this idea was also being promoted by Japanese gurus, and I'm coming to that in a while. I have been fortunate to meet these quality gurus for few times, and I was able to share my research with them, and they were very actually kind to me. They motivated me, and they actually brought me to the level at which I am today, and I'm able to share some of the lessons that I have learned in all these years from quality and excellence by working in some of the multinationals and working in international organizations such as American Society for Quality.
So lucky you.
Thank you. is another photograph of Dr. Parsuraman, who was the first person to found a tool for service quality in 1980. I also met him, and we actually later worked together in writing an encyclopedia, and he was the editor of that encyclopedia. And I'm very grateful to Shiri. She has shared with you some of my publications in which I am the co-author. Now let's talk a bit about the Japanese guru, Dr. Ishikawa, the father of statistical quality control and very popular for democratizing the statistics. So the history of Six Sigma actually starts with Dr. Ishikawa, who supported and promoted bringing the statistical methods on the workplace for control charts. So Ishikawa and Masaki, they were both able to found quality tools that I would talk a bit about in a little while. The person next to Ishikawa is Dr. Kano, Dr. Noriaki Kano. He is a living legend, and he is known for his contribution to the proactive quality that we call voice of customers. And his customer satisfaction model got a lot of popularity, and he was given a lot of awards and recognition for that. In the middle, the person with the bow is Taichi Ono, the legend behind the success of Toyota Corporation. A very popular, very famous for the definition of Muda, 7 forms of waste. The person next to him, Dr. Taguchi, he is actually the father of quality engineering. And after Ronald Fisher, who did a lot of experiments in agriculture, Taguchi brought all those design of experiment techniques on manufacturing and service industries. And he's one of the key contributor into design of experiments that we used to have in our Six Sigma Black Belt projects. The person next with white hair, Dr. Masaki Imai, living legend. Just a couple of months, he celebrated his 91st anniversary, and he announced that his new book is coming in June. So just look at that gentleman, 91 years old, and he has just authored his next book. And the last person in the screen is Dr. Shigeo Shingo, who is very popular for his concepts in lean management, like Poka-yoke, like Kanban, single minute exchange of die, that we are all familiar in lean management and Six Sigma techniques and methodologies. Now, what was the result of all this? We were able to standardize work, and we were able to make a lot of breakthrough improvements in the industries, in the communities, in the society, and in the world as a globe. And that actually has given rise to something that we call Industry 4.0 today. If we look at the success of these quality guru philosophies when applied to the workplaces, what was the end result? I'm going to share very interesting statistics with you. If we look at the invention of telephone, you know, Graham Bell invented it, and it took 75 years to reach to the level of 50 million users. For the television, it took 13 years. Internet got 50 million users in 4 years. Twitter got 50 million users in 9 months. And Pokemon Go in China got 50 billion users in 19 days. If you look at the population composition of the world, in 1700 AD, the global population was 650 million approximately. Over 100 years, it grew to 1 billion. In 2019, it was 7.6 billion approximately. And there is a projection that population will grow to 11 billion by the end of this century, by the year 2100. And with the lot of advancements in the medical field and healthcare, we have been able to increase the life expectancy, which was merely 35 years. Now it has increased to almost 72 years. And we used to have a lot of famine, pandemics, epidemics that we have been able to overcome. For example, if you look at the current pandemic of COVID-19, the world has really reacted. We have got a real response from the healthcare sector, and we have been able to actually protect the world population in large quantities by investing into the vaccines. So this all has actually helped to shape up Industry 4.0. One of the major breakthrough that happened was actually combining the physical sciences and the computing sciences. And that gave rise to Industry 4.0 in this century. So if we go back 10 years or 11 years, Industry 4.0 started. We used to have a term automation in the Industrial Revolution 3. Now this has gone to a superlative degree, which we call automation. So Industry 4.0 is what? Industry 4.0 is the combination. It is the juxtaposition of digital and physical world. And it has disrupted the industries, both in manufacturing and service. So the benefits of technology, they are now defining the socio-economy. They're impacting our individual lifestyles. They are impacting the communities and the societies. Now people are talking about autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles. We are sending such vehicles to Mars. If you are aware that a couple of years ago, NASA actually held a competition on building a habitat for Mars. So when we land on the Mars, how the habitat should look like, who is going to build that? So good news, humans are not going to build those. So what we are going to do, the organizations which are working in space technology, they are actually developing robots which would land on Mars earlier than human, and they will assemble themselves into something that you have seen in the movies of Transformers, and they will build those habitats. So once men go there, they land on Mars, they will live in those habitats. We are now having hyperloop trains. I remember once I traveled in Shanghai in the fastest train of the world, bullet train, gaining a speed up to 450 kilometers per second. Now we are talking of trains, pods achieving a speed of 1200 kilometers per hour. And this is not a dream. This is now, which is now being tested. Now we have smartphones. We have machines which are learning. We are now redesigning our towns. We have the concept of smart city, Internet of Things, augmented virtual reality, robotics, robotic process automation, which is helping us in creating service robots, chatbots, automating the business processes, achieving better levels of quality, excellence, and productivity, unmanned aerial vehicles, 5G mobile technologies. And with all these things, we have supported frameworks, and we are now having something called predictive analytics, which we are able to come up with using other technologies such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, blockchains, cyber security. In the industries, we have 3D printing. I will share with you some of the industries in the next slide in which these technologies are now being used. So in governance of the corporate and even in the governance of public sector organizations in the developed world. Transportation means agriculture. We now have new terms, smart agriculture. IoTs are being deployed in agriculture all over the world with a very high frequency. Aviation industry has made a lot of improvement using these technologies. For example, in the maintenance of aircrafts, they are now using dopplerglosses, which is a quick way of identifying defects for the maintenance in an aircraft. Now we are talking about branchless banking. In Singapore, we have total digital banks. We used to have the NASDAQ back in 1970s, 80s as the first electronic stock exchange. Now we have a lot of things taking place on internet, financial technology, fintech. We have now crowdfunding, we have crowdsourcing. This is all possible because of the disruptive technologies driven by the innovation. We have new things in the defense. Now education model is being changed. I just attended World Conference a couple of weeks before, and I heard people talking about challenging the current education system in the universities and colleges and the schools. And they were charging those institutions that they are teaching our kids old things, and they should prepare our next generation, the next gen, for the new technologies, so that whatever they study in the institution, they should be able to apply. They should have the knowledge when they go to the workplace. They could apply that skill, that knowledge that they gain in the university or in the other institutions. If you look at the construction industry, it has never achieved this level of productivity, this level of safety, this level of quality, which they have been able to achieve through the use of Industry 4 technologies. A drone are helping them, geographical information system, geoimaging, thermal imaging. This all gadgets are now part of construction industry, and we have tools available in commercial use. And quality obviously has been hit. Quality has been, transforming to new shapes, and that we will focus actually in the next slide on this. And as a result, supply chains have been disrupted. Now we have digital supply chains. Now people are preferring the platforms where they can find digital supply chains. You see Alibaba, you see Amazon gaining popularity, getting a lot of customers. A big portion of the world's trade shifting on those digital supply chains. Look at the retail models. Look at the integration that supply chain has been able to offer. Look at the collaboration of the different entities in the supply chain. They are using these technologies. They are controlling counterfeit parts. For example, using drones. For example, using blockchains. We have hyperledger technology that we call blockchain, and that is also helping in controlling all these challenges of double entry, accounting systems, hacking of the systems. So look at the pharma industry, look at the energy sector, and look at the town planning. But how it is impacting these industries, this is very important to understand, so that we could have some focus areas that we should consider if we want to be part of the ride. If we want to really take advantage of this fourth industrial revolution, we need to understand where it is hitting hard, where are the opportunities, what are the challenges, what are the risks, how we can actually participate in that to actually get all the benefits which are there for us to avail, and how to avoid the pitfalls and the traps that could actually jeopardize our organizations. Because now what is happening, the product life cycles are being impacted, portfolios are being impacted, technology life cycles are being impacted. So the organizations who were selling one innovative product, they need to think about second innovative product because of lot of competition, because now access is available to every individual, organizational entity, and the professional all over the world. So you are going to have new organization, lot of disruption. Innovation is not now limited to couple of or handful organizations. Now it is even coming from the developing countries. So strategies are being impacted, business models are being impacted. Now people are talking about digital business models. And this is not only hitting the industry, it is now also hitting the regulators. Now regulators are also under doubts and worries how they are going to regulate the industry. So what they are doing some sandboxes, even with the fintech organizations, which they have been resisting since 2008 after the economic depression. So new technological systems organizations are considering, and the organizations are actually formally founding technological functions. They are talking about technology strategy. So the corporate strategy is actually being enriched, being enlarged. Governance is actually being promoted. Operational models are being revised. Why? In order to achieve a strategic fit, to remain competent, to sustain. Otherwise, the story may end like very rapidly going into the list of Fortune 500, and in a few months, few years, going out of that list. So the churn out has increased. So now the customer is educated. Customer is also very much a bigger part of this industry 4.0. And organizations are now trying to focus to create a very rich customer experience. Why? They are targeting customer delight, because customer satisfaction is a very tiny thing over here. Now, the people who are running these shows, people who are defining strategies, people who are working on deploying technologies, people who are trying to innovate, they got to have new competency, because old ones are not going to help. So HR is again on their toes. They have to actually enrich the job descriptions. And the term corporate social responsibility, it is going to be replaced with the new term that we call corporate digital responsibility. So this is again not a fiction. This is something that is happening all over the world. Now this all challenge, this all new landscape is pushing the quality professional to rethink, revisit, re-strategize their position in the organizations. Quality professional still want to be instrumental. They still want to play their pivotal role in the organizational success. But it is not now very simple, because things are changing. We have new technologies, we have new business models, and sooner or later they are going to hit the excellence models. So if you have been taking pride of ISO 9000, Malcolm Baldrige Award, European Foundation for Quality Management Award, it is going to be changed. It is going to be changed abruptly. So quality professionals need to think about having up-to-date knowledge. They got to develop new competence. Their job descriptions are going to be revised. Organization systems are going to be revised. And we are going to have a real integrated logic in between the business systems, in between the planning systems, and in between the field. Now, PLCs are going to be connected to SCADA. SCADA is going to be connected to ERP, and that would be connected to decision making on the strategic level, which has always been a wish list for so many decades. And this all give birth to something that we call Quality 4.0. So what are the new dimensions of Quality 4.0? Now, I would request all of my attendees to pay full attention. Before, it was about processes. Before, it was about learning tools. Now, it has got a broader prospect. Now, you should be aware that we have been agreeing on 3 dimensions of quality in the leading organizations such as American Society for Quality. So we need to understand people, how we are going to equip them, how we are going to skill them. Number 1. Number 2, once they get a skill, how they are going to be upskilled, because one skill may be obsolete in some time or so. Our processes, which used to be manual, from manual we got them automated, and now from automated they are going to be automated. So when the robots are running the factory, and we have term like smart factories, so it would be an advancement from CNC machines. So once those jobs are taken over by the robots, so where do you find your place in the process? So you got to equip yourself, you got to redefine the process, you got to keep yourself ahead of that robot, which would not require sick leaves, which would not require cigarette breaks, bathroom breaks, family breaks, right? Productivity levels, because of the competition, is the target of the industries. So in order to remain there, in order to control those automated processes. You got to develop yourself. And how that is possible? You have to work now in learning the technologies. So the technologies that I took name in the beginning of my talk, you should be aware of those technologies, how they can help you. What are those technologies? What are the building blocks? How do they fit in the business models, in the operating models, in the excellence models, and how those technologies would help in integrating the organization, how excellence is going to be evolved. So this is all food for thought for all you people around the world, that you have to position yourself. Your profession is going to be re-strategized, redefined around these three dimensions: people, process, and technology. Now I will take you around a very interesting study that has been conducted by American Society for Quality in collaboration with German Association for Quality and the Boston Consulting Group, very famous organization, BCG. And this was conducted 1.5 years before, and they took a sample of 221 organizations from around the world, and most of them were from North America, Europe, and Asia. And here I would share some of the results, and you would be surprised. We are talking so big. Organizations have ambitious targets, and they are also making their way to those targets. But the readiness for Quality 4.0 to remain in your jobs, to sustain your positions as quality professionals, quality engineers, Six Sigma experts, reliability engineers, business analysts, process analysts. Now you should know that only 16% of the organizations that were surveyed, they have implemented the initiatives under Quality 4.0. 20% are in the planning phase, and 63% have not yet started a plan. And very interestingly, the organizations in the Europe were found ahead of North American organizations. Another interesting thing that I think you should consider is about the metrics that we use to define quality indicators in the process, in the system, in the organization, and in the industries. And there was a very interesting pattern discovered. If we classify the organizations and we call one group as the innovators, leaders, or we call them front runners, and we keep the other group as followers, we have very interesting result about these two groups. The leaders or front runners, they are not very optimistic about the promises that Quality 4.0 is making so far. So what expectation they shared were not that much optimistic. So for example, for the cost of quality check with the industrial 4.0 technologies, 12% think that they would be able to reach on the targets, while 20% of the organizations which were in the follower group, they were having high expectation. Similarly, first pass yield, defect rate, rework rate, on-time delivery, customer satisfaction, warranty claims, product-related complaints. These are very important key performance indicators that we use as quality indicators in our dashboards. And this is very interesting. And there are reasons, because the front-runner organizations have been into this for some years. Now, you know that the innovators who actually make it first to innovation, research, and development, they also have to face failures. And whatever remains become a success story for the followers. So this is understandable. So if we look at the Gartner hype cycle or the Rogers technology adoption curve, this is very logical. Now I would talk about opportunities and the challenges. So let us look first at the barriers. So the study has shown that the organizations who are actually making their way into the industry 4.0 and augmenting it with their investment in Quality 4.0, they are facing problems. So I would list into these 5 problems which are, you can say, the top 5 barriers. Number one, shortage of digital skills. So the required rate at which they need quality professionals, they are not able to find, because the supply is not up to that level. And where from the supply is coming? From the academics, from the professional institutions. So this has to be really considered. This is a very important point, because this could result in catastrophes. And you know what are the results? Some organizations, for example, Google, they say we don't need academic degrees, we don't need certifications. Come, we will train you, we will upskill you, we will give you certification, learn those in internship and become part of our organization. Now, this level of organization with multi-billion dollar of business, if they set such examples, what would be left over for academia? What would be left over for the institutions which are providing consultancy? How much they themselves are upgrading themselves to reach that digital level to help the industry in getting those expertise and skills and competence. The second very important thing is the inertia within the organization, that we call organizational resistance to adopt to new technologies. Now, if it stays there, you are going to be listed in Nokia, IBM, Kodak, all those stories. Let's not forget General Electric. Jack Welch turned around by $100 billion using Six Sigma methodologies. But what happened after that? Where is General Electric? So if you don't innovate, if you can't transform your organization towards new technologies, towards new business models, you are going to be out of business. And there are no empathies, no sympathies in business. And another very important barrier that we should talk about is outdated infrastructure and system. So what is our pace to automation? What is our pace to automation? For how long did we invest in the previous technology? Did we think about our technology strategy? Did we know what is the current rate of diffusion of the old technology, and how fast we should think about incorporating the new technology and things like that? Number 4 is siloed and fragmented data. We have insecurity. Our data is not clean. And now data is going to have a pivotal role. Even we have regulators who are actually bringing in regulations such as GDPR. Now, America has also said that they're going to have some regulations on the data governance. And data science is now heart of Industrial Revolution 4.0. But how much organizations are considering this? It is a big question mark, a big barrier. So you can talk big, you can think big, but when it comes to application and you don't have data governance model, you don't have data policies, you have no idea about the data systems, you are going to end up in failures. Very important, last but not the least, the fifth top 5 barrier is concerns about cybersecurity. What happened to the US for their oil pipeline is not an old story. This is a continuous struggle in between the hackers and between the experts, and organizations need to spend on that. Don't just leave it to the people who are on the operational level. This has got to have a projection on the higher level. So what is the opportunity in all this? Now let us talk about this before we finish our session. So fortunately, study also provides a roadmap for the organizations who want to join the front runners or who want to join the followers, how they should be actually thinking about placing themselves and positioning themselves. So it is pretty simple. They have to scan the environment, which is a formal way of a business decision. So identify the opportunities, do strategic alignments, ideate the opportunities, define your priorities, build business cases, test them. And then you should remember, when I say plan, when I say test, when I say readjust your plan and then implement, I'm talking about Dr. Deming PDCA cycle. which is the foundation of all the management system in the world today. So that is why I referred to all the philosophies, and I took the names of those gurus whose principles, whose philosophies are still going to help us. And if you are aware that in a lean application in, for example, by Linux Foundation in the software, lean application by the construction industry using Industry 4.0, and such other quality frameworks and models application in Industry 4.0 is still going to help. So those would not be forgotten lessons. So I would end with a very important quote that a future visionary shared with us 50 years before. Yes, 50 years before, Alan Toffler, which is a great popular American philosopher, he wrote this in his book in 1970. And he said the illiterate of the 21st century would not be those people who cannot read and cannot write, but those people who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So this is the time to actually reposition yourself, re-strategize yourself, time to develop new skills. Don't stick to the old school of thought. The world has changed. You have to realize that signal of change, and you have to position yourself so that you can help your organization to position as an organization to sustain in the industry. And that concludes my talk. I really appreciate your time, and we still have, I believe we still have few minutes for any questions and answers. So over to Ms. Shireen. So I can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and
Yeah,
clear.
it will be perfect. I really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you very much for the conclusions, for the inputs. But can we go to previous slides to talk about it? Yes, this one, the coming one. Okay. Yeah. It is talking about implementing quality 4.0 initiatives. Okay.
Yeah.
So my question would be here, you are being part of ASQ. We have
Yes.
lots of body of knowledge, know-how, sharing, and is this going to be changed to accommodate quality 4.0?
Yeah. So in American Society for Quality, I'm working in many capacities, and one of them is actually a Quality 4.0 initiative. And we are actually having a lot of discussions. We have a lot of thought leaders from America, Canada, Europe, and from other parts of the world. And we are actually talking about this and to provide the global quality professionals a framework that they can adopt in order to remain current and in order to develop themselves into the Industry 4.0 paradigm. And for that, I have suggested to consider 3 dimensions: people, process, and technology. So the Quality 4 initiative would require to have expertise in processes, in people, and in technology. So with those expertise and competence in perspective, quality professional can still help the organization in initiating Quality 4.0 initiative. So equipping themselves with those expertise, they can still interact with the top management. They can still take the control of the organizations as they have been doing in the past. So, but now the opportunity is vested in technology, right? So which technology they should opt for, because a good leader should be able to understand which opportunity to grab and which opportunity to forego. And for that, they have to understand their strategic fit. What is their business model and what is their target operating model? This has to be matching one against each other. So this slide is actually provide a very high level guideline on that. So the first thing, if you look on the upper side of this diagram, the first thing is to identify the opportunities, and that means the technologies around you. Now, fortunately, we have a lot of organizations who already have adopted Industry 4.0 and the technologies under Industry 4.0. And following that, you could actually define your roadmap. you should be aware of your business goals. Now that business has been actually joined by your competitors. You might have competitors who are actually leading in technology. There could be competitors who are lagging in technology. So position yourself, where do you see opportunities? And you could conduct analysis. There are tools. So still those tools are going to help us. For example, SWOT analysis, for example, Porter forces, for example, pestle analysis. So still those tools will be helpful. And just by the way, I talked about my position as service quality body of knowledge chair. And if my audience could visit American Society for Quality website, they can download service quality body of knowledge. And that volume has got 100 tools. You can download it for free. Those tools include how to choose, how to apply, what is the mechanism with a template. And if I bring you back on this slide, and let us look on the bottom half of this slide, you could now develop a plan. So you could be having pain points in the organizations against which you have to start some initiatives. For example, you have to enhance operational efficiency, or you have to achieve business excellence, or you have to undergo a transformation journey from one technology to another technology in order to improve your position, in order to gain a higher level of productivity, or in order to lead the competition. So those would help you to ideate opportunities. Now you can still prioritize them. And here I referred the Deming wheel: plan, do, check, act. It is again going to help you. So you should be able to develop business cases that would help you actually in kicking start the initiative, maybe as a program management, maybe as a project management. So again, you have the methodology for championing the quality initiatives. So just follow those guidelines and those actually project methodologies. Define your target picture, apply the quality improvement methodologies, adopt Six Sigma, adopt quality improvement frameworks. But again, do not forget the system part. Do not forget the software. Do not forget the technologies which are already there. Now, for example, in the time of quality gurus, there were no computers. I joined some conferences with Dr. Feigenbaum, and he did not know how to use the personal computer and the smartphone gadgets, right? But now we have a lot of intelligence embedded even in the smartphone. So don't forget the technology part, and don't forget the people part, how to make them part of this success and part of this transformation. And on the top of that, take hold of the process that you have to transform in order to reach your operational goals as well as organizational goals. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Zubair. Can you please share the link with us so we can share it with everyone for the 100 tools mentioned?
Yeah, I would do that. I would share it with you after this talk finish.
We will share it. Perfect. So is there a framework for Quality 4.0? Is there has ASQ or quality gurus like you and others in the board? Is there a process to develop something about a framework for Quality 4.0?
Shireen, thank you very much for this great question. And I knew that that is the pulse of our audience at the moment. And I'm very glad that we are working with a lot of thought leaders, and we are coming up with a lot of new good news for you. And we would actually adapt the frameworks of the quality gurus. So quality gurus, philosophies, teachings would still be helping us in defining the new quality tools, applications in juxtaposition with the technology to help the quality professionals all around the world. So I would request you to actually promote watching and joining the platforms that American Society for Quality is operating. And I'm sure that in the Middle East, American Society for Quality has a complete organization, and we can also actually push them to collaborate with you so that they would be able to help consultants, professionals, and organizations in the Middle East to come to the new levels of technology and excellence.
Fantastic. We have already made some stories and some use cases in implementing autonomous process and digital transformation manufacturing execution systems already, which has been enabling us for quality because it's becoming autonomous. We read the data with the process parameters from the machine, and we automate the equation, we automate the control charts, we draw real time the process capability, and we get deep dive in the analysis, and we get quality analytics dashboards. It has been done with one of the biggest painting companies in the Middle East. But some people here are interested, Dr. Zubair, to learn from you. Is there use cases or case studies about companies who implemented Quality 4.0 for them to check and read and learn?
Yeah, Miss Shiri, thank you very much. I'm very glad to know that things are going well in the Middle East region. And I'm also very happy to share that, yes, the case studies are available. Now, case studies are available from aviation, from healthcare, from software, from automotive, defense, space, lot of industries. Do you know that Amazon, for example, they are applying Six Sigma methodologies in car manufacturing? And that would be very interesting for you people. Tesla is implementing Six Sigma methodologies, and they are actually on the top of the technology, and they're rocking Quality 4.0. So the answer is yes, case studies are available. If you go to American Society for Quality resource page for Quality 4.0, you can find a lot of case studies. And I'm also actually, as the committee chair, we are also actually promoting sharing of those case studies for the professional all around the world. And this is all for free. There is no charge for that. We have to actually support quality professionals so that they could help the organizations and themselves and the community in order to sustain and elevate the quality and the transformation journey.
Someone here is asking how to make Quality 4.0 with existing ERP system. So he's talking, for example, they have SAP Infor. That does Quality 4.0 has to be cloud-based or facility-based? It's a question.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I think I would give you some examples over here so that you can assimilate and digest this because we really talked too high. Now see, we are having a lot of technologies which are going to work in support to each other. So we are going to have data, real-time data from the field. I'm repeating, from the field. It is not only from the factory itself. So when you are saying ERP, you think it is limited to factory. I'm telling you, we have machine learning, we have Internet of Things, and we have something called Industrial Internet of Things. And this is something being practiced in healthcare. This is something being practiced in heavy machinery. For example, in the mining industry, if you go to the Australia and you find heavy machinery doing mining and transmitting the data from the drill machine, from other parts of the machines through IoT to their nearest station, and from that, with the cloud, it goes back to the factory. It goes to the business intelligence. It goes to ERP system. Now, another part, you might have heard about the term digital twin. Now, what is digital twin? See, we have one physical system and we have its complementary part in a software as a simulated model that we called digital twin. So what happens to the physical system is fed to the cyber part, right? So all the data is stored in the cyber part, and that helps us in running predictive analysis that we called predictive modeling. And that helps us in improving the design parameters. So this is something that I actually indicated about in my talk. I said business logic is going to be integrated with the machine logic. Today they are separate. We have strategic part on the business taken care by the top management separately, The machine data is handled separately. People sit together and exchange data, and they make key decisions. I give you an example. This is happening in automotive industry. You buy a vehicle, and you actually, because of cloud computing, because of industry 4.0, we have now subscription models. We have something called platform as a service. We have something called software as a service. We have something called infrastructure as a service. So we actually subscribe for the infrastructure, for the platform, for the software. For example, you actually buy a car from an automobile manufacturer, and you get a subscription of operating some of the features. And if you need more features, you can request them to activate those features, and you pay for those features as a license for a certain period of time. So this is a new news for you. It is, so you know that it is happening in operating system. It is happening in Microsoft Office 365. It is happening in Amazon Web Service, Netflix. It is happening in cloud computing, in Zoom, through which we are connected. We all have subscription. Now this subscription is going to be there in the infrastructure. So you would buy the hardware and you would pay for the software. All this data will be fed into the decision support system, DSS, with which business intelligence system is integrated. Lot of things machine will decide by themselves. So when you call to the factory to get more features, robot is taking care of them. That we call robotic process automation, business processes. So the human intervention would be limited, because organizations want to achieve better level of excellence, better level of productivity. And for that, human expertise have to be shifted much above that. And that is why I am actually alerting you to think about developing new competence, new skills. And I think we should appreciate Shiri for organizing this webinar through which you are getting such awareness. And I'm sure that she is also helping you people in the region with other organizations like our organization to actually help you in upskilling yourself in developing new competence. Now, for example, at ASQ, we are also enriching the certifications. So Six Sigma, Green Belt or Yellow Belt or Black Belt or Certified Quality Engineer, Manager of Quality, you are not going to have the same body of knowledge, guys and girls. It is going to be enriched. And you know, ASQ model is competitive model. We don't give the top certifications perpetually. You have to renew, because technology is changing, organizations is changing, and the only constant in the universe is change. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you a lot, Zubair, for such information. And I love your enthusiasm. I love your passion when you talk about it, because it's not easy that you accept a change and you are encouraging change, embracing change, leading change, talking to quality gurus all over the world. One last question I think we can take is about finance. And finance, sure. Yeah, in finance, he's asking about finance and accounting, the role in digital transformation and quality 4.0.
So thank you very much for this interesting question. And I'm telling you that blockchain technology is going to hit the accounting systems that we are using in our offices, we are using in public sector department. Because, you know why? Because our accounting system depends on double entries. Our books have to have double entries. Our whole accounting system, our audit system is based upon that. And blockchain, or we call it digital ledgers, or we call it hyper ledger, it is actually challenging this status quo. And if we apply blockchain as it is in its pure form, we do not need auditors. We would have trust, because blockchain, by definition, by the virtue of design of the technology, do not require counter checks, because all the nodes or elements in a blockchain are having all the information. So it is not that one block has different information and another hash block has different information. So blockchain is really going to challenge you. And that is why all the financial regulators all over the world, they immediately banned cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency, or we call it digital currency, or maybe you are aware of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which are which have cryptography by default, so they cannot be misused, right? Blockchain is believed to be the most reliable, most secure network for the accounting system and for the financial transactions. So it is not time to worry actually for you people as operators, as banks, or as financial institutions. It is actually warning the financial regulators, the tax collectors, the central banks, how they are going to adjust books, how they are going to run audits. And we have internal audit, then external audit, then we have state audit, then we have special audits. So all this is going to be challenged. And the only way which some of the wise financial regulators have thought upon was not to avoid it. So they have decided to know it very closely, not by escaping, but by participating into it. I tell you a very interesting example of Google. Almost 10 years before, Google decided to actually manufacture driverless cars. And at that time, no one was doing that. Even Google was not an automobile manufacturer. And they went to the Department of Transport in the United States, and they said, we want to get the license of car manufacturing. And they explained that we shall manufacture a car which will drive itself. And the Department of Transport said, how it is possible? And how we are going to regulate those cars, that traffic system? And Google did not stop, did not change their mind, because a regulator was not ready. What they decided to teach the regulator. Now today, Department of Transport in America is helping the car manufacturers, and they are helping the organizations who actually make standards. They are helping AIAG, Automobile Industry Action Group, on how to create standards. So for example, vehicles are going to talk to each other, which you will never know, in order to ensure safety, in order to control the speed of the car, in order to control human. So on the same wave, financial regulators are actually trying to join this technology ride. So what they are doing, it is called sandbox experiments by involving the financial operators. So digital finance companies, they are going to involve themselves with the financial transactions using, in some cases, the cryptocurrency. So because with every blockchain, cryptocurrency is automatically generated. You do not need a separate rocket science for that. So I would also advise you to actually upgrade yourself by taking advanced courses. So maybe you cannot just start studying the financial technologies, because it has also different paradigms. We have FinTech 1, FinTech 2, and now world is actually having FinTech 2.5. So that is again a separate pool of technologies. So I'm sure that answers your question.
Thank you, Zubair. And there is we can say as well, in finance, we have process mining, we have RPA, we have many technologies for business process reengineering who can help us to improve the process. We have been contributing with one of the multinationals in the Middle East, and they are re-engineering their processes, how to be simpler. That's what exactly as Zubair said, we need the basic tools. We need the Lean and Six Sigma tools. But we use technology to make our processes smarter, because we can build dashboards, AI, automate business rules. I had a meeting with one of the factories today, and we were discussing how the dashboard can help him to automate even sending emails. Like if you have failures or quality problems twice in a row or 2 days, you have this defect, it can be sent an email and escalated to the manager and manager of the manager. So let's not just think about that quality 4.0 is something separate from industry 4.0. They are integrated together. all the new processes which are digital, as he mentioned. Look at Google Map. Google Map now has built-in quality. Who said built-in quality? The Japanese quality gurus. They talked about built-in quality for years. Now, using technology, you build in quality. The machines, the process settings, the process parameters, the instructions will not be up to an operator to set it on the machine. The product will be smart, and the machine will read the product and it will do the auto setting. Changeover will be smart. Even the machine will fix itself. It will give you the fault message, as he mentioned, digital twin.
Yep.
So think about SIPOC tools, which we have learned in Six Sigma, supplier input, process, output, customer. They use it now for processes, how we can make it simpler, how we can make it smart, how we can add technology to our SIPOC. So it all started with quality. So the idea is that we as quality people keep learning data analytics, learning digital transformation, learning the basics so we can understand the new technologies. So instead of us being inspection people or analysis after the fact, we can move to the quality, as they say, the nice side, which is prevention, like Dr. Joran taught us before. We invest in prevention rather than in correction. So people, please don't think these are separate things. Quality will be built in. Process is intelligent, it's autonomous, and we need to learn how to dig into data, analyze data, predict data, understand new techniques, and it's there, it's everywhere. We at Symbios will provide many trainings as well, by the way. And so the knowledge is easy. It's easy now, it's at our fingertips. So thank you, Zubair, for giving this holistic approach. I enjoyed it personally.
I really thank you for adding this valuable things on the top of my talk, and I'm sure that your audience would really have gained some insights into Industry 4.0 and Quality 4.0 and the way forward. Thank you very much.
We will send you the presentation via email with the link for this recording. And in case anyone has any question, we are happy to support and answer. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a nice evening.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.